The Binding of Isaac Rebirth is a randomly generated roguelike indie game released on November 4th, 2014. It is a game based on the biblical story of the same name, though there isn't much of a story other than that, as I'm going to explain in a second. Basically, The Binding of Isaac is a story where God tells some dude to kill his son as a sacrifice. This game changes that a bit, so that the dude in the story is a woman, and the killing is because Isaac is tainted with evil. Somehow. That's really the only piece of story in this game, though since I'm not a very big fan of the Bible, I'm entirely okay with that. The game plays like the first Zelda game. A room full of enemies, and you can only leave the room when the enemies are dead. Occasionally, after finishing a room, something will appear in the room. This could be anything ranging from money, bombs, keys, chests, and more. The interesting part about this game comes when you come across the game's randomly generated aspects. The game runs off different seeds, all of which contain an entirely different set of levels for you to go through. To play this game, you go through rooms. Multiple rooms make up floors, 2 floors make a chapter, and 6 chapters make one run. On your journey through the game, you come across item pedestals, which store items on them. There are hundreds of items in this game, which adds a lot to the replay value. Hundreds of items, plus randomly generated rooms, equals a ton of replay value. Items are completely run-changing at best, and not very effective at worst. Some of the best items in the game are run winners by themselves, and some of the worst are run destroyers. Throughout the game, you come across multiple special rooms where interesting things can happen. For example, there's a room where you can sacrifice health to get in, there's a room where you can take stuff, but only after fighting your way through a horde of enemies, and there's also a room with a huge die in the middle. The die indicating the effects if you step on it. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this game is quite a hard game to review in my opinion. Generally, the game, while really good, doesn't have much content. Okay, let me rephrase that. The game doesn't have much content that warrants reviewing. The game itself doesn't have much of a story, as the entire thing happens in the intro cutscene, which only lasts a minute or two. The gameplay is taken almost straight from Zelda, with a bit of twin-stick shooter tweaking. And the fact that it's randomly generated means it's hard to point out anything hilarious about the game, as not everyone gets to see it. This game is incredibly good. So good, in fact, that I have over 200 hours clocked into it. There's not much to say aside from the fact that it's a really good game. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth is a very good game. I like that it's simple enough for beginners, but masters of the game are still tinkering with it as we speak. The game has a ton of content and a lot of possible runs. I personally would recommend picking this game up, as this game is incredibly cheap. The base game costs $15, and you can get the DLC, Afterbirth, for another $15. So, if you're looking for a cheap game that will last you a long time, I'd suggest this one. This actually used to be my favorite game until I started playing Spelunky. Speaking of Spelunky, I did a review on it a while back. Why not check it out while you're at it? Speaking of Spelunky, I did a review on it a while back. Why not check it out? While you're at it, check out my dudes over at Limited Lives. Links to both will be in the description below. Thanks for watching.